Welcome to a new collections video. As always, this is Goku-san DBZ. This time we're looking at the PSP. But first we're going to look at a couple of the VMU games that I have. First up, Loose. First up we have 007 Casino Royale, which is a great movie. Also, Hellboy, the director's cut. The original 2002 Spider-Man. The classic from the 90s, The Fifth Element. Then a couple of films, which I got for like $1. Film called Be Cool, with a lot of familiar faces actually in it, including The Rock. Also, film based on the Broadway play, Rent. Then, some not-so-good films, which I got dirt cheap. X-Men 3, The Last Stand. Resident Evil, Apocalypse. And last is a really cool cult classic from the 90s, Aeon Flux, which was done by MTV, back when they actually did some quality. But that's it for the movie side of things. So, and by the way, enjoy the music in the background from Tekken Dark Resurrection. So, first up we have, of Loose games, Star Wars The Force Unleashed, which is an all-time classic. Also, a interesting game that actually got a PSP game, and that is Armored Core, which is actually pretty fun, in all honesty, and it looks surprisingly good for being a PSP game. Also, if you're more of an RPG fan, also have Valkyrie Chronicles 2, which is a great tactical RPG game done by Sega. Also, Phantasy Star Portable, which is actually a great game, and this game is really starting to go up in price. It is unfortunate that like almost half my PSP games are loose, which sucks, but even then, they're still becoming harder to find some of them. But yeah, if you ever get a chance to try out Phantasy Star Portable, give it a shot. Also, a classic, which was sort of like a remaster of the original Medieval Resurrection, which is actually a blast. And it gets a few upgrades here and there. It does look better than the original PS1 version of Medieval. This is a series I've always had especially nowadays, a nostalgia for. And with the remake, which I still have yet to actually get through the remake, but I love Resurrection. Also, the beginning of an interesting series of sort of like, I guess you could call it a copy off of Monster Hunter, but God Eater Burst, as it was called, which was actually a PSP exclusive, which is actually quite interesting if you ask me. But I've played God Eater Burst 2, so I personally like the first game more, though I have yet to play the third game. Also, if you're into really interesting and unique platformers, this is a pretty cool game I recommend, where you play as sort of like a penguin, which is kind of cool. Now, interesting thing about the game is you start out with like 99 lives, but keep in mind, you can die very easily and very quickly in this game. It has a pretty decent difficulty, so just know that. But if you get a chance, I do highly recommend checking out this little game right here. It's pretty cool, honestly. I especially love the sprite work and everything in the game. Now, sadly I have Loose, but the original, of course, Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, which remains my #1 favorite PSP game and remains my favorite Kingdom Hearts game of all time. Also, if you're a Square fan, you'll appreciate the original Final Fantasy 1, which is an all-time classic. Also, the pretty cool sort of prequel to Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core, which eventually I want to get around to getting like the remastered version of the game. I look forward to when I finally get a chance to actually pick that up and play it. But seriously, if you've never actually tried Crisis Core, it's actually amazing. I think this game looks really good for being a PSP game. Next, if you're looking for something else a little different of Final Fantasy, you have the original classic, the first Final Fantasy Dissidia, which is pretty cool, though I think its sequel is far superior. Also, a interesting sort of third game in the Parasite Eve series, simply called The Third Birthday. Now, this game is actually starting to get harder to find. As just loose, this game on average is going for like $35 to $40 now loose. Complete in box. Let's just say it's definitely a good bit more, like about double the price. It's interesting for what it is. Also, you have Tekken 6. Not the best way to play Tekken 6, mind you, but still, I am amazed at how much they got put in to the PSP port of this. Also, as I mentioned, music playing in the background from right now, Tekken Dark Resurrection, which of course this would be the introduction to two future fan favorites, as you see on the cover there, Lily and Zergain Dragunov. And the last of the loose, we have the PSP port of course, up until MKX, my favorite MK game, MK or Mortal Kombat Deception, or known as Unchained on the PSP, which still has pretty much all the content, everything from the console ports, which is very impressive. It's probably one of the easily best looking, though I will say, I think Dark Resurrection may be the best fine game on the PSP, or just about anyways. Next up don't have really complete, but I have it in a box, as this game is going up in price. Of course, based off the manga and the anime with the same name, Fate Extra, which, by the way, this is actually based on, besides that, it's actually getting harder and harder to find this game, as loose, this is going for over $50 now, which is kind of crazy. But seriously, it's a good game. If you like games like Shin Megami Tensei and Persona, you will actually enjoy this game quite a bit. Next up, a very sort of interesting game that was released by Square Enix, Lord of Arcane, which interestingly has actual online feature, course customization where you can create your own character. Like many games out there, and just know also this game is known for its high difficulty. So that is just something to keep in mind with a game like this. But you can find this pretty reasonable still to this day. Next, pretty cool compilation done by Capcom, which is Capcom Classics Collection Remixed, which includes many classics, like it has the original Street Fighter, it has Strider, as well as many others. You can freeze and look at that, and that's the list of games that you get in this collection. It's pretty good overall, if you ask me. Also, Captain Commando's in the collection, which is awesome. Next up is a pretty cool double pack of two classic Infamous Monster Hunter games, both definitely known for being very high on difficulty, but that's a lot of, in general, Monster Hunter games, keep in mind. But definitely these are some of the hardest in my personal opinion. Because if you're used to playing it on like regular home console or on like the 3DS, trust me, it's a very different feel playing it on the PSP. But if you get a chance, pick it up, as it's still very reasonably priced, and you get 2 games in it. Also, one of my personal favorite things of Remastered. Now, this was basically from the ground up a remake of the original Mega Man X, known as Maverick Hunter X, which is basically from the ground up, completely done in actual 3D. But it plays exactly the same amazingly, and I actually kind of like it. Plus, it even includes anime cutscenes, which is pretty cool. And that's how you get to learn more about, of course, the main antagonist of the series, Sigma, which is great. And as this remains my favorite Mega Man forever, I will, of course, highly recommend this, and as it is still reasonably priced, they also did a remake in 3D as well of the very first Mega Man game, also on the PSP. I just haven't got my hands on a copy of that yet. But eventually I will, if I can find for an okay price range. But yeah, get a chance to check out Mega Man Maverick Hunter X. Arguably, pretty much up there is the best fighting game. This is maybe the definitive, though, fighting game to play other than Dark Resurrection. Street Fighter Alpha 3 Max, which has the most characters. It brings back some characters that were in other versions of this game, and it even includes the character sub-boss from Capcom Fine Evolution, Ingrid, is also in this collection, as well as characters from the very first game like Eagle, completely redone from the ground up as sprite work. But if you've actually have a PSP, I do highly recommend this. You can also get this digitally on the Vita as well, so just know that. Also, arguably one of the best RPGs experiences on the PSP, and that being Final Fantasy Tactics, The War of the Lions, which is my personal favorite of the Tactics games. Because I just like the style of tactical RPGs. Also, I think the actual artwork in the game is gorgeous. It is also cool that it includes even like Wi-Fi support. And just that cover art is gorgeous looking. Next up, arguably the best of the Dissidia series being Dissidia 012. Which, of course, on the top there of the art, you have the protagonist, and then on the bottom, antagonist, with, of course, Garland in the dead center, and for some reason, Lightning in the dead center up above, which I think is stupid. It should be somebody like either Squall or like maybe like Terry from FF6. But hey, that's just my opinion. Still, it is a great game, and I do highly recommend this and always will. Also, pretty cool, Final Fantasy II, which of course the main antagonist being the Emperor, as they refer to him as. And of course, it also includes full CG cutscenes as well, as this was the PS1 version, just ported to the PSP. Then we have Final Fantasy IV, the Complete Collection, which I consider this the definitive way to play FF4. As it includes normal FF4, plus it also includes Final Fantasy IV, the After Years. And this is arguably probably one of the best stories and some of the best characters in the series as a whole. Now, the last four are Japanese imports. The first of which is a pretty cool fighting game based off of the very popular and beloved anime Soul Eater. It's actually a really interesting game. Definitely unique and has its own spin and feel compared to many other fighting games of the time period. And yeah, this never got a Western release. So if you want to play this, either you had to import from Japan or, like I did, pick it up at a anime convention, which is where I found this actually. It was an anime convention called Tsubasacon. Now the next one is another one I also picked up from Tsubasacon back several years ago, and that being Vampire Chronicles, or Chronicle, the Chaos Tower, which includes customization of how you want to play the game from all three of the Darkstalker games, plus its own original thing, the tower, which is good if you want a decent, good challenge. Of course, on the back artwork, pretty cool. You have Lilith, Donovan, and of course, my personal favorite, Dmitry Maximov. But if you ever get a chance, seriously, check out this collection. It is pretty cool, in all honesty. Now, I don't know what the price is. I haven't checked recent price ranges for this game. But I believe this also may have gone a Western release, though I never saw it. But this is definitely great to have for any Darkstalker fans out there. Second to last is the Japanese version, of course, of Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, known as Birth by Sleep Final Mix, which includes, of course, extra content, which you actually have in the HD remaster versions, and Kingdom Hearts 2.5. And I love like the holographic style case is pretty cool. Last but not least, of course, it got an HD remaster released on the Xbox One as well as the PS4. But if you wanted to play it on its original format PSP, you would have to import from Japan, which is what I actually did. There are fan translations online, just know that. Also included even a cool little like Wi-Fi local multiplayer thing, which was not added to the console versions, which is kind of crazy. But this is one of my personal favorite Final Fantasy games. Final Fantasy Type 0 is awesome. And the fact also, it was a double disc PSP game is one of the other things that makes it cool. But that's it for this collection. That is my collection. Not big or super impressive, but I believe overall the quality speaks for itself. With that said, I'll see y'all next time, same YouTube channel. And next time, I'll be looking at the GameCube, so stay tuned for that.